Okay, so having looked at the cafe, the coffee shop use case, let's take a look at how you might go about and documenting or capturing using UML these scenarios. So each one of the scenarios, right, could be represented in a use case diagram as an oval, right, with some verb phrase describing it. As I mentioned earlier, use case is just a set of multiple scenarios, of which one of them is the best case scenario, the best case use case scenario. But there might be many other scenarios that might cover all sorts of edge cases that would be represented in the use case as the variations of them, right? But the collection of all the scenarios would make the one use case. We would represent a particular use case as just an oval with some verb phrase that might read as the name of the actor and then taking some action over some object. Right? In this case, might be this might be the cashier, taking the customer order. Right? So it's a verb phrase. Right? Who's doing the action? What is the action? And to who or to what is the action being applied to? Also, typically we use stick figures to represent the users, typically human users, where typically we don't really care about the particular user. Instead, we care about the roles that user might be playing, where the same user might be playing different roles over time. Right? You might be a faculty, the same person might be a faculty or role in the faculty, but if they do some work for the registrar's office or whatnot, they might be playing a completely different role. But it might be the same person. Right? So it's okay for the same person to act. Also, some of these actors might not necessarily be human actors. There might be some financial institution or some governmental agency that our system needs to interact with, and they are also generating some actions. So here's an anatomy of a generic use case diagram. Notice the box. The box is our boundary of the system that we are building or the subsystem that we are responsible for. Anything outside of the box we're not building, right? There might be all sorts of things that we need to interact with, but we're not responsible for building any of that. And so this clearly identifies what is it that is our responsibility. Each one of the use cases might be represented as an oval. This is a graphical way of cataloging all the things that need to be built that is very useful for non-developers or for giving feedback, for gathering feedback from our stakeholders. Where they might point out where is my particular use case. There might be they might be looking for the 2 or 3 use cases that they championed. Right? Why are they not listed in that system? Right? So it would be a very quick way to look for the catalog of the things that we are building. The human actors playing a particular role are represented as stick figures. We have some cardinality saying how many of instances of one are related to others. We have some use cases that are shared amongst multiple roles. Both clerk and customers have a common use case, whereas the administrator has its own set of use cases. We have also some includes and extends that allow you to capture some use cases that are optional, that are available, but they're just optional. Now you're not going to always be using the help, but if you want to use the help on that particular use case, then go ahead, it's there. So it's not required, it's optional, it's just available. And this also allows you to reuse something that is common and then just point to it so that you don't have to repeat yourself over and over. Right? So it's just captured only once. Some other ones, the include relationships, allow you to capture dependencies between use cases where you cannot go forward in a use case unless some other use case has occurred before. Right? You cannot check out, right, unless you have paid for something that you're checking out. Okay. Other nuances of use cases, just like there is reusability in object-oriented methodologies where you create inheritance or generalization relationships between different classes. Right, where you might have some default or some basic implementation in the base class, and then you can inherit from. Similarly, we can use the same idea for use cases where we might have some abstract representation of some use case, and then some special cases that might add some additional behaviors or some specific aspect that specialize the basic or the base behavior, right? Using the same diagram, the same triangle diagram that we would use in object-oriented generalization. As I mentioned earlier, the extend relationship allows you to declare certain aspects that might be optional, that you might not want to reuse over and over, and you can point to them with a dashed line and using the extend stereotype, right? Saying that this is not necessary, but if it's optional, but if you want to use it, it's there. Also, another way of not having to repeat yourself, you might use the include stereotype that allows you to create some dependencies between the use cases where you cannot go forward until some other use case has been executed. That you cannot place the order or track the order until you have validated the user. Two ways of representing the same thing as one big oval and having all the dependencies inside that big oval. These are just capturing what I just said.